What happens when an ordinary biologist rescues a drowning lion cub without knowing that armed men are already following him? He just wanted to help. But what happened next turned the entire camp upside down and exposed the dangerous truth about those who were supposed to protect the animals. Let me tell you something straight. I didn't come to Africa looking for hero points. I came for field work, data, and maybe a few peaceful sunsets with a decent cup of coffee, not drama involving wild animals and life-or-death stunts. But the bush doesn't care about your plans. It was early morning, heat just starting to roll in, and the only sound was my boots squelching through damp soil as I checked camera traps. This was supposed to be routine. Swap memory cards, log tracks, curse at a few mosquitoes, but then I heard it. Not a growl, not a roar. A cry. High-pitched, panicked, and so raw it cut straight through me. Something was in trouble. I followed the sound, stumbling through grass that was way too tall and thorny for comfort. That's when I saw it. A lion cub, maybe 3 months old, flailing in a muddy stream like someone had dropped a house cat into a washing machine. He was going under fast, paws scrambling, gasping, pure desperation. And standing on the far bank was a full-grown lioness, stock still, ears back, eyes locked on her baby. She didn't move. Most people in my shoes would have thought, well, that's nature. I wasn't most people. Maybe it was the look in the cub's eyes. Maybe I'd finally lost it from too many nights on too little sleep. But I didn't hesitate. I dropped my gear and ran straight in. That water? Not gentle. It was freezing, thick with mud, and the current had no interest in helping me be a good Samaritan. Every step felt like dragging a refrigerator behind me, but I reached him. The little guy was slippery, soaked, and absolutely convinced I was trying to finish what the river started. He clawed my arm like I owed him money, but I didn't let go. I turned and fought my way back to shore, slipping, coughing, and doing my best not to collapse face first into a pile of elephant dung. When I finally hit dry ground, I laid him down gently on the grass and backed off slow. Hands up, breath shaky, heart pounding like a drumline in my ribs. That lioness emerged from the reeds like a ghost, silent and massive. Her eyes flicked from the cub to me, back to him. I didn't move. She didn't growl. She didn't charge. She just looked. Then, like it was the most normal thing in the world, she picked up her cub by the scruff and disappeared back into the bush. No, thank you. No parade. Just gone. I stood there, drenched, bleeding, and fully aware I had just played tug-of-war with death, and somehow won. My colleague Jen found me 20 minutes later sitting on a log looking like I'd wrestled a chainsaw, which in a way I had. "You're insane," she said, wrapping gauze around my arm. "Do you even know what you just did?" "Yeah," I muttered. "I pulled a baby lion out of a river. You're welcome." But that was just the beginning. That's the part that'll look nice on paper. The good deed, the brave idiot, the happy ending. Only, there was no ending. Not yet. Because hours later, things started going sideways in ways I didn't see coming. It started small. A camera trap smashed. Another one vanished. My gear. Tampered with. And then came the warning. Moke, local ranger, worked with us for weeks. Showed up right before sunset. Serious face. No jokes. "You were near the North Stream today?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, still drying off. "Why?" "That's not safe ground. You're not the only one watching those lions," he said, real quiet. I didn't like his tone. I liked what he said next even less. "Some people, they don't like it when outsiders mess with merchandise." Merchandise. That's when it hit me. That cub, he wasn't just unlucky. He was valuable. And I just interrupted something I wasn't supposed to see. The world has predators, and not all of them walk on 4 legs. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unravels because what was waiting on the shore wasn't done with me yet. Now, if you've ever worked in the field, And I mean really worked, not just posted photos with a wide-brimmed hat pretending you're the next David Attenborough. You know when something feels off. The bush has a rhythm. Birds sing, bugs buzz. The wind rustles like a lazy symphony. But when I woke up the next morning, the silence, it was loud. First red flag. One of my trail cams was gone. Not knocked over. Not chewed on. Just gone. The tree it was mounted on still had the screws. The wire was hanging loose like somebody cut it with actual clippers, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Second flag? Another camera down the trail, this one coated in some kind of sticky black goo. Not natural. I've seen animals roll in all kinds of nasty, but this was deliberate, like someone wanted to make sure we didn't see something. Third flag? That old beige Land Cruiser parked about 2 miles out, barely visible through the brush. Tinted windows, no plates, no dust on the tires, meaning it hadn't been there long. I stood there, hands on my hips, staring at it, trying to decide if I should be curious or concerned. The moment I took one step forward, the engine kicked in and it rolled away. Smooth, silent, like it didn't even want to leave tire tracks. Back at camp, Jen was sorting through yesterday's footage. She paused and looked up. "Where's the cam from Zone 6?" she asked. "Gone," I replied. She didn't even blink. Just sat there for a second and said, "We're being watched." That night, the air changed. We heard it first. Distant pops. Not fireworks, not thunder. Gunfire. Somewhere near the far bank. Then a call came in from one of the nearby rangers. A breach in the perimeter. Motion sensors tripped. No one saw who did it. No one wanted to. At this point, I was done waiting for permission. I grabbed my flashlight, clipped a radio to my belt, and headed toward the stream. Stupid? Probably, but waiting around wasn't working either. I found the cub again. He was hiding in the brush, shaking, one paw curled under him like it was injured. He tried to stand and fell right back down. My stomach turned. I didn't see his mother anywhere, just blood on a leaf nearby, and the kind of silence that tells you you're not alone. That's when they stepped out of the dark. 2 men. No uniforms. One had a metal baton. The other had a case. Long, narrow, and suspiciously shaped, like something that requires a license and bad intentions. "Back off!" the one with the case said. Voice flat. No panic. Like I was just a mild inconvenience in his Tuesday. I stayed exactly where I was. Not because I was brave, but because behind me was a cub who didn't deserve this. "He's not yours," I said. "He's not yours either," the man replied, almost amused. Then he stepped closer. That was his mistake. Because just as he did, there was this low sound from the trees behind them. A rumble. A promise. And out she came, the lioness, silent, powerful, all muscle and fire in the shape of nature's justice. She didn't roar. She didn't lunge right away. She waited, just long enough for everyone to know she meant business. Then, chaos. She launched forward and slammed one of the men to the ground like he was made of cardboard. The second man turned to run, but his boot caught the brush and down he went. I didn't hesitate, grabbed the dart gun he dropped and used it the way I hoped I'd never have to. He hit the dirt hard. The lioness didn't chase. She stood there, eyes still glowing in the dark, then turned to nuzzle the cub. Gently, like none of that had just happened. Then she looked at me, and for one weird moment, I swear she nodded. I don't know what kind of connection that was. Maybe gratitude, maybe warning, maybe both. I carried the cub back with her close behind, not like she was guarding him, but like she was checking on me too. When we reached a clearing, she stopped, waited, then disappeared into the tall grass like smoke in the wind. By the time I got back to camp, the rangers were there, Moke too. But the look on his face? It had changed. He didn't ask questions. didn't make jokes, just stared at me like I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to survive. Which, let's be honest, I probably wasn't. This is the turning point. Everything you've waited for, it's right here. Don't blink. Because what happens next? That's the part no one saw coming. By the time the sun came up, I was running on nerves and half a cup of stale instant coffee. My shirt was ripped, my arm looked like it had been in a bar fight with a cheese grater, and Jen was pacing the camp like someone about to tell the truth no one wanted to hear. Because something had changed. The Rangers showed up, more than usual. Not local volunteers. These guys wore crisp uniforms, boots too clean for this place, and looked at me like I owed them answers. One of them flashed a badge. I didn't ask what branch he was from. I just pointed to the tree line. "There's your crime scene," I said. "You're late." They collected the two guys still out cold in the bush. The lioness and her cub. Gone again, like ghosts. But not before they'd left behind claw marks in the dirt and enough blood to prove this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was an ambush, and she was the one who stopped it. Later that day, we sat down for a debrief. They didn't say much, just took statements, collected the dart gun, and bagged some of the gear the intruders dropped. I noticed Moke wasn't among them. No surprise there. He was suddenly off duty. That night, I finally checked the footage from the one camera that hadn't been touched. It had caught everything: the chase, the cub, the lioness, the attack, the escape, and tucked deep in the corner of one frame, a face. Moke. He was there, watching, waiting. I took a breath I didn't know I was holding. This whole time, I'd assumed we were on the same side. We were supposed to be protecting wildlife, not selling it. But the deeper truth? People like Moke didn't just turn a blind eye. They built the system that hurt these animals. They profited while pretending to care. That lioness wasn't just saving her cub. She was saving what little dignity the wild had left. The next morning, a federal vehicle pulled into camp. Big SUV, government tags, two men in dark polos with the kind of walk that said they weren't here for sightseeing. They had names I instantly forgot, and voices that never rose above calm. "Mr. Harper," one of them said, "we've received your footage. There's going to be a hearing. Multiple charges. Your testimony will help." Help. Sure. But none of this felt like help. It felt like cleaning up after a storm you didn't cause. But saw coming. Weeks passed. Moke vanished. Word was he'd resigned. Classic. But the story didn't end there, because one afternoon, while I was packing up the last of our supplies, I heard something. Not a roar, not a growl, just the soft crunch of grass. I turned. There she was, the lioness, standing across the field, her cub, bigger now, stronger, trailing behind her. She stared at me. Calm, proud. No roar, no warning, just presence. And then, as if to say, "We're good," she turned and walked away. I stood there for a while, processing everything: the silence, the chaos, the near-death moments wrapped in tooth and claw. But mostly, I thought about why she kept showing up. Not for me. For her cub. For justice. For territory no one asked permission to steal. She didn't need words. She didn't need a headline. She just needed someone to not look away. Back in the States, they published a small article about what happened. Something about illegal poaching interrupted by American researcher. Neat, clean, sanitized. But here's what they didn't print. That mother lion didn't just defend her child. She exposed a system. And me? I didn't save the cub that day. The cub saved me. From the lie that wildlife protection is just a noble idea. It's a war, quiet, ugly, and fought in the shadows. And sometimes, the only ones who know how to fight back are the ones with claws. This was never just about a lion cub. It was about what's left of the wild, and who's willing to protect it when the cameras stop rolling. Remember that. And don't look away next time.